That's the much we can take today on the program. Join us next time for another educating session.
The vaccine offers hope for a safe country free of coronavirus. I urge all state governments, traditional and religious leaders to take the lead in the mobilization effort within their environment and spheres of influence. I similarly urge all eligible Nigerians to present themselves and be vaccinated in accordance with the order of priority already mapped out at the various authorized designated centers only.
There is an epidemic affecting individuals in every community, regardless of age, economic status, gender, race, religion, or nationality. It is called domestic violence. It can take a number of forms, including physical, verbal, emotional, economic, religious, or sexual abuse. The ultimate aim of domestic violence is to gain and maintain total control over its victim. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It happens among people of all ages, ethnic background, and economic levels. While women are more commonly victimized, men are also abused, especially verbally and emotionally, although sometimes even physically as well. Unfortunately, domestic violence is among the most underreported crimes worldwide for both men and women. An abuser doesn't play fair. He or she uses fear, guilt, shame, and intimidation to wear down his or her victims and keep them perpetually under his or her control. Abusers may often seem wonderful and perfect initially, but gradually become more aggressive and controlling as the relationship continues. Here are some signs of abusive tendencies: showing jealousy of the victim's family and friends, accusing victim of cheating, controlling who the victim sees, where they go, or what they do, preventing the victim from making his or her own decision, intimidating the victim with guns, knives, or other weapons. Noticing and acknowledging the signs of an abusive relationship is the first step to ending it. Therefore, abusive behavior is never acceptable, whether it is coming from a man or a woman, a teenager or an older adult. We all deserve to be valued, respected, and safe.
Drive in the rain?
It depends on the velocity of the rain.
This is the network service of the NTA.
trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Every year, millions of men, women, and children are trafficked worldwide, including right here in Nigeria, meaning it can happen in any community, and victims can be of any age, race, gender, or nationality. Traffickers might use violence, manipulation, or false promises of well-paying jobs or romantic relationships to lure victims into trafficking situations. Similarly, language barrier, fear of their traffickers, or fear of law enforcement agencies frequently keep victims from seeking help, thereby making human trafficking a hidden crime. Today, our focus is on human trafficking. Welcome to 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. I'm Lydia Sampson. Our first report by Oyeyemi Ajayi is taking a look at human trafficking, the different types of human trafficking, the lies human traffickers tell their victims and their family members, and more. Oyeyemi, it's over to you.
Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some form of labor or commercial sex act. Traffickers often deceive unsuspected victims with juicy packages but eventually make them to go through hard times.
They want to killing now, nurse and ask guest. Now, cause okay, now ask me what do because no problem. How come they come break? How come me go meet sister? Cause show me sister. Sister cause okay, no problem. Me want trouble. So how come me go all these guests for or tell for the stay?
It's usually based on lies and falsehood. They lie, they threaten you, they abduct you, they kidnap you, they force you to do things you don't want to do. They tell lies about giving you a better job somewhere. They tell lies about offering you scholarships for schooling. They tell lies about practically everything, signing you up in a football academy to play professional football, professional basketball, and so on and so forth. So it's usually premised on lies, threats, fraud, deceit, and so on and so forth. There's nothing good about human trafficking from inception until the deed is done.
At different times, news about human trafficking had filled the air, as many tend to make use of financial inadequacies of others to their own advantage. It could happen in the shores of the country, but many happen outside the country of domain, as they tend to promise that life is really greener there. Total contrast is always the case, as they are exploited sexually. Some ended up with harvested organs, while many become labor slaves.
Well, we have human trafficking for the purpose of sexual exploitation or forced prostitution. We also have human trafficking for the purpose of organ harvesting, where your organs are harvested and sold in the black market. It's big business. There's so much money involved in it. We have human trafficking for the purpose of domestic servitude, where children are recruited from various rural areas and shared in people's homes as house helps, and the recruiter or the agent is collecting the money from all of them who are working every month in various houses. We have it for labor exploitation. You have little children in farms, working in plantations, working in factories, and so on and so forth. So human trafficking is huge. We have human trafficking. We have also what we call sports trafficking. We have orphanage trafficking, where children are actually kidnapped and kept in orphanage homes as well. And people can come there to buy children. People who don't have children can buy children and even use them for whatever purposes they want, and without, proper guardians,
As much as the world is raising more awareness against child trafficking, the traffickers themselves are also devising means of evading justice. Human trafficking could include the use of victims for drug trafficking from a country to another, exposing them to the risk of being caught and prosecuted, while their victims are left to their own fate.
Trafficking of children will break my heart any day, anytime. You have brothels all over Nigeria with very little girls as young as 9, 10 in the brothels being forced into prostitution. Their childhood has been taken away from them for life. Their innocence, their virginity, their pride, everything has been taken away from them. I mean, where do you start from with when that happens to a child. And this is common everywhere. And so we must ensure that all these brothels are being checked out from time to time. They shouldn't even be operating at all because they are really causing our children a lot of harm and damage.
Countless Nigerians have been lured into human trafficking. Due to the large population of Nigeria, the country is routinely tagged as one of the leading African countries in human trafficking, with cross-border and internal trafficking, making the country a source as well as a transit point for human trafficking.
But some also are victims, innocent victims, who were deceived by superior people. And that is why there must be a database, there must be an information center. Everything goes back to orientation and information in our society. An information bureau, whereby in Nigeria, before you accept any offer of a traveling or employment, you cross-check the people involved. The history. You find out, you want to go there tomorrow morning, you can cross-check today.
Okay, like I always say, prevention is better than cure. And so there's need for massive awareness and sensitization campaigns. Now, the fight against human trafficking is a fight that must involve the whole of government and the whole of society at all levels. Now, government includes local government, state government, the federal government. But most of the time, people sit back and think that it is a federal government thing. It's not to do with only the federal government. The local government has a role to play because most of these girls and boys are taken out from these various local governments and taken to the urban cities or taken out of the country. And so the local government, the state government, the federal government must learn to collaborate and synergize to ensure that this does not happen in terms of awareness raising and sensitization. Free and compulsory education is very important. If you are not in school, you become vulnerable. It's very easy to be trafficked. And so the government must also ensure that there is free and compulsory education at least up to secondary school, basic school education. And inside that, of course, we must have skill acquisition training as well. In the event that a child drops out of either primary or secondary school, they have a skill they can work with because it's very difficult to traffic someone who has a skill. So when we look at all of this, and of course, better life for rural men and women, the truth is that when you have parents who cannot afford to feed their children, they will easily give up their children. But if the parents are empowered, it will be very difficult because most of the time they will be thinking that these children being with them are more useful to them. They will help them in their farms or they will help them in their petty trading rather than give them out to other people. So there are so many steps that can be taken. It's not a one-step thing. There are so many steps that can be taken to ensure that we prevent human trafficking at all levels.
In 2016, out of the 181,000 migrants who arrived Italy through the Mediterranean Sea, Nigerians accounted for 21%. Human trafficking takes place within the Nigerian borders, in neighboring countries, and in many European countries as they are able to transport women and children within a network of human traffickers to expand the market within the industry.
I mean, come on, for the victim, most of the time they are traumatized and they may not come back alive. They may end up being dead because it's a very violent kind of crime. The traffickers are very violent people. Of course, it takes only a violent man or woman to be involved in human trafficking. So for the victims, they are traumatized, all the way. Some of them end up with diseases, curable or incurable diseases. Some of them end up mentally sick for a long time. Some of them end up dead. So it's really traumatic. It's a lose-lose situation, when it comes to the victims. And of course, for the greedy traffickers, they make so much money and they don't even have the fear of God in their lives. They don't even have value for human life. So it's more tilted. The disadvantages actually are just tilted towards the victims. Of course, to the society, we are losing our youngest, our brightest and best in the society. They take children as young as 10, 8, 9 out to use them for whatever they want to use them. So our brightest and best, the numbers are brought down tremendously, even for the economy as well. These the average age men and women are working for someone else for free. We need them here. So when you look at it in terms of economy, you look at it in terms of numbers, you look at it in terms of everything, in terms of security, because some of them who are abducted and taken to other parts of the country can be used as terrorists to come back, to Nigeria to wreak havoc on us. They can be, all sorts of things can happen to them, So it's a very bad situation for the economy and for the country.
The cartel in Nigeria has sent thousands of women into the sex markets in Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands, and other countries. Effects on victims are quite enormous, and it leaves them with psychological trauma, with some of them not lucky enough to tell their stories, while others also have their body parts taken away.
Of course, the grass can never be greener outside. There's no place like home. When you're out of your country, you're out of your comfort zone. You are at the mercy of the people around you, and that is why human trafficking thrives. Because human trafficking thrives when you are vulnerable. You become desperate. You do not have the legal capacity to live in the country. You do not have the legal means to work in the country. And you must eat. You must survive. And so the traffickers come to you and offer you jobs, and they offer you food, they offer you a home. And what happens? You become at the mercy of the traffickers. In Nigeria, if I'm hungry, I can go to my neighbor and have a plate of eba to eat. But abroad, you cannot ask your neighbor for food. It does not happen. There was a true life situation, a true life story of a man who traveled abroad. And each time he greets his neighbor, the neighbor gets very offended. And after a while, the neighbor called in the police and said, this man must have a mental problem. He greets me in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening. I do not think he is okay. I do not want this man as my neighbor. Take him away. So you can imagine the mindset of these people. They are not friendly people, and it can never be the same. There is no place like home. And I keep telling the youths, make something of yourself where you are. You do not need to be a slave to others in a foreign land where you are not known. You may not even be a number. You are not even known by your name. So there is no place like home. Stay in Nigeria, work hard with determination, focus, and hard work.
Now, the next report by Thomas Egbetere is looking at the prevalence and factors responsible for human trafficking. What makes the victims and their families gullible, as well as the role of government and international agencies? Also, what role do local NGOs play in curbing the menace? Let's get the details from Thomas.
Not many days pass by without the illicit transportation of humans out of the country. Human trafficking appears to be on the rise in parts of the country, and to make matters worse, other dimensions like forced labor, sexual exploitation, organ harvest, exploitation of children in form of child labor, and baby sales, to mention but a few, have been added to this illicit trade. The crime of human trafficking, according to experts, is now receiving extensive global and local attention. However, owing to its complex and multifaceted nature, a clear, uniform understanding of the phenomenon remains a challenge.
Human trafficking is actually very prevalent. If you follow strictly definition of or understanding of what trafficking is, which is the trade in human beings, you can look at it as, well, maybe it involves taking somebody and just transporting elsewhere and exploiting that person, which is classic slave trade. But you will also find that human trafficking is closer than we think. It includes things like child labor, domestic servitude, especially the misuse of children. If you look at the law too, it extends to unlawful carnal knowledge and exploitation of children. It also involves baby sales and taking away from lawful custody of children and all that. So human trafficking is quite big. As long as a human being is being exploited for the benefit of another, it can be considered trafficking.
Unfortunately, Nigeria wears 3 caps. Nigeria is a source country, a transit and destination country for human trafficking. So internally speaking, we have human trafficking victims being recruited from the cities, from the rural areas to the urban areas because of high demand for domestic workers. There are basically three purposes for exploitation, namely organ harvest, for labor, whether domestic or industrial or hazardous labor, and also for commercial sex purpose.
Human trafficking is said to involve many individuals, groups, and organizations. Most victims and their families are often deceived by the traffickers, who are quick to capitalize on the gullibility of parents who, in their desperation for better life, unwittingly consent to the trafficking of their children and worse, who end up as slaves.
Hoping that their children or their child will be trained by one uncle, by one brother, or by one nephew and things of that nature. And at the end of the day, they release these children or release a child to such a person and expose such child to undue risk and high risk environment, and also expose such child to a very serious dangers. Because we have seen situations where we have such incidents and you see some of these children and even the child selling granite or selling biscuit or selling pure water or selling without the parents knowing what such child is passing through in the city.
It's always people that have influence, and the recruiters must go through somebody. They go through somebody who go through somebody to get who they want. So the recruiter came and picked and said he's going to work in Malaysia. You see, you are going abroad. You are going to make so much money. You come back and build houses for your parents, buy cars for your parents. So I had too much for this country. So it's always about the economic purpose. Your life will change. You are going to, in fact, you are going to become a school teacher. That's one of the lies they tell them. You are going to work as a hairdresser. We have victims who just returned in March. Oh, I had one who returned on Monday. We had one who just returned on Monday, returning. So we have victims who returned in January. What did they tell them? They did passport. She went regularly. When they got there, she was to work in a very beautiful factory, only for her to be a domestic worker. What were you doing? She said she was doing what they call complex work. Can you see? What would she do? She'll do babysitting, she'll work in the farm, she'll wash the car 24/7, no sleep. For 2 good years, she was never paid a dime. And then when you cry, they will torture you. She said they will torture her in the house and they will torture her where she works. So these are the lies are always very attractive material things.
Experts recommend severe penalties for offenders and more funding for relevant agencies to help improve awareness creation on the tricks of traffickers and dangers of human trafficking, as well as the roles of the public, traditional institutions, policymakers, and NGOs in the fight against the menace.
Against trafficking in Nigeria is the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act of 2015. Actually, it started in 2003, the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Law Enforcement and Administration Act, which established NAPTIP. That law was repealed in 2015 and reenacted as the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act. And this law provides very stringent punishments for trafficking, and up to life imprisonment, 21 years, 7 years. The first law provided what you might call maximum sentences. We say somebody that commits this crime, who commits this offense, is liable on conviction to a sentence of imprisonment of of a maximum of 7 years, for example. But we found out that over time, there was a lot of abuse, I would say, maybe at the courts or some courts, because a crime that you say has, for example, let me tell you a typical story. When I was head of Lagos, a woman was sentenced to a cumulative of 22 years on 3 counts. That was 7, 7, 8. So it was supposed to go for at least 8 years if the sentence were to run concurrently, which the judge sentenced the person correctly. Bernard said, or a fine of 7,500 naira. So our lawyers were still in court where the woman paid the 7,500 and walked free. That was the law. Because you said a maximum. So the judge went down to the base. And we had so many instances like that. So in 2015, the law was reenacted, and you now have what you call minimum sentence. You say a sentence of not less than. So that makes it more difficult, but you still have some judges still come down. There's hardly any, I think only 1 or 2 instances of alternative of fine, or in addition, fine in addition. But you still see judges, they use that judges' rule and manipulate. So the law is there. Enforcement is one problem at the judicial level, and then also at the level of institutions. NAPTIP has the power to enforce the law. Law enforcement agencies who come across trafficking cases are supposed to refer them to NAPTIP for final investigation, full investigation and prosecution. You find some law enforcement agencies who have no mandate to prosecute trafficking, still take trafficking cases to court, and sometimes they disguise it with other offenses so that the laws can allow them. But that way, traffickers are getting away with a crime. Because, for example, all trafficking cases should be taken to a high court, either the state high court or federal high court. But you find that some agencies will take cases to magistrate court. And meanwhile, they are trafficking cases. So, of course, by the time it gets there, it's going to be thrown out.
Let parents also know that once you allow your child to be taken away, you are also a trafficker, you are a perpetrator. Because when the law catches up with you, you are also going to be joined. Like the VAP Act now, anybody that aids, look at the protocol, the United Nations protocol, is to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking of especially women and children. It is not acceptable at all. Nobody should make anybody a commodity.
What else does government need to do to win the war against human trafficking? The experts also had their say.
They carry out sensitization, they carry out that's awareness creation programs, they carry out actual rehabilitation of victims of trafficking, repatriation of victims, like international communities like IOM helps in repatriating victims of trafficking and giving them support when they come back, training and all that. So everybody is playing or has a role to play. But like I said, the necessary atmosphere and conditions for fighting trafficking is provided by government basically, and others then queuing and are able to do their own role and play their part.
That thing is that we should highlight these routes. We had victims who were put in the boots of the car to go abroad. Eventually you end in Libya. Everywhere, there's turmoil everywhere. And then another thing the government, yes, can do is the issue of security. You see, insecurity, conflict, political unrest, all these things, they are catalysts to human trafficking. We all become, when people begin to migrate, when you just see they come to pack girls, pack boys, pack children, what are they using those people for? You see what we look at, baby factory, organ harvest, those people. I think issue of security is a very important thing. In fact, that is the only prayer, the only thing the government can do. Let there be security.
They also emphasized the need for deliberate collaborative efforts among the security agencies, international community, non-governmental organizations, relevant government agencies, and local communities, as well as the private sector, geared towards curbing the crime known as human trafficking.
Don't forget, traffickers look for people who are impressionable for a variety of reasons, including psychological or emotional vulnerability. There is also the issue of economic hardship, lack of a social safety net, natural disasters, or political instability. Therefore, we all have a role to play by educating the vulnerable and be on the watch out for any suspicious activity. Thanks for watching. I'm Lydia Samson.
to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.
Stop this senseless killing. All we need is one Nigeria.
I think we have come to the threshold of time when we need to seek for peace.
We need peace in this country. We need peace in Nigeria.
And together, we can pull through.
No matter where you come from.
Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba.
We cannot achieve a better Nigeria by fighting.
Let us stand together in brotherhood and solidarity and strive for peace. And not because of their tribal or their religion or whatsoever background.
Let us support the government of the day to embrace peace in our nation.
Your Nigeria, our Nigeria, my Nigeria.
This message is brought to you by the Ambassador of Voice for Change Initiative, supported by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and the Federal Capital Territory.
This vaccine is safe and it has been certified safe and usable by NAFTA.
Wannan labarin ma yana peji na 36.
Ita kuma babban labarin wannan jarida shine ainihin
labarin da ke gaban jarida shine ta bayyana cewa
ọkwa ji Ikenga eziokwu
nwanne m nwoke
Ikechukwu Ndukwe Igbo
mam iji wee mee ka ụbọchị na-aga n'anya ya
ọjụtụtụ na-ewutelu unu
nation fún ti òwúrọ̀ yìí ibẹ̀ náà ti sọ pé àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ìpínlẹ̀ Benue pàṣẹ wípé
ní gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀ka ní ẹ̀ka ètò ẹ̀kọ́ ní ẹ̀ka ètò ìlera ní ẹ̀ka ètò ààbò.
We want to talk about rights, there are obligations. I'm not saying that this government is a saint, it's very far from it. But there are things that we can do to make it better, and that's the challenge I'm throwing to you. You don't want to build this nation? I don't know where else you want to go. If I had a choice, I'll come back. When I stand outside and I hear what you have to say about this country that I know that I can die for as one, then I'm really sad because you're young. You have education. You have tools.
Security challenges will not be handed over to next administration, President Buhari promises Nigerians.
And I would like to be remembered as a person who stabilizes this country. If there is no security, there is nothing anybody can do, no matter how much he tries or how much initiative he has.
2 days after ECOWAS suspension of Guinea over military coup, delegation heads to the country.
Nigeria records 727 fresh COVID-19 infections in the last 24 hours.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on integrated farm centers and food security.
To revive agriculture and ensure that Nigeria attains food security, the present administration under President Muhammadu Buhari came up with a number of policies to accelerate growth in the agricultural sector, such as the Anko Borers program, which encouraged massive production of rice and several key crops.
That's right, Kirian, and the administration is bent certainly on leveraging on agriculture to drive the much-needed economic diversification. Now, another policy which is expected to stimulate growth in the sector is the recent directive by President Buhari that the National Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA, should set up integrated farm estates in all the 109 senatorial districts in the country.
Now, the Integrated Farm Estates Initiative is expected to ensure food security, address herders and farmers' crisis, and at the same time create job opportunities for the teeming unemployed youths in the country.
Already, a pilot integrated farm estate is in place in the country, and that is the one that was inaugurated in Daura, Katsina State by President Buhari on the 19th of July this year. Now, it has the capacity to take in some 1,500 young farmers, and we also understand another integrated farm estate is undergoing construction in Borno State and is nearly 75% complete.
Already, Kogi State government has donated 700 hectares of land for integrated farm estates, while Ogun State on its part earmarked 100 hectares for the project. Meanwhile, NADA, we also learned, has a 10-hectare integrated farm estate in Dasamo village, Jakusko local government area of Yobe State, which will soon be set for inauguration.
Well, the questions to ask will be, what are the requirements for establishing an integrated farm estate in every senatorial district in the country, and how feasible is this anyway? Now, what do the states and ultimately the citizens stand to gain, especially those donating hectares of land for the project? What opportunities are available for Nigerian youth? These are some of the talking points we intend to explore in this edition of Good Morning Nigeria as we discuss integrated farm estates and food security in Nigeria. I'm Kingsley Osadolo, welcoming you to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority.
And I am Kieran Umayo, also join Kingsley in welcoming you to the show today. And we urge you to look out for the usual complementary segments in the course of the package, such as newspaper review, business, foreign news, and sports. For now, here is our colleague, Dennis Adegunloye, with the Good Morning News highlights. Hello, Dennis.
Yes, good morning, Kieran, and good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari has described the pragmatic implementation of the reconstruction, rehabilitation and recovery agenda in Imo State as a critical pathway towards advancing the Eastern Heartland to the next level of socio-economic development. The president stated this while inaugurating several landmark projects executed by the Hope Uzodinma administration.
I have seen enough that justifies his integrity. I'm very impressed with what he has done, because I have gone through the same problem at the center. Infrastructure is what will enable the people to mind their own businesses. And I assure you that I will try to encourage Imo State within the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Meanwhile, a security-challenged and destabilized Nigeria will not be handed over to the next administration. President Muhammadu Buhari, who made this commitment at a town hall meeting with Southeast leaders in Owerri, Imo State, also promised to leave a more united, corrupt-free and diversified economy.
The biggest disappointment is now the Northwest and North Central. People without ethnicity, without religion, are killing each other and stealing each other's property. And I would like to be remembered as a person who stabilized this country. If there is no security, there is nothing anybody can do, no matter how much he tries or how much initiative he has. Security is number one thing, and we'll try and do that.
Telecommunications services have been shut down in at least 13 local government areas of Katsina State. The affected local government areas are Sabuwa, Faskari, Dandumi, Batsari, Danmusa, Kankara, Jibia, Safana, Dutsima and Kurfi, that are on the fringes of the Rugu forest where most of the bandits are hiding. Other three include Funtua, Bakuri and Malumfashi. This is coming a few days after the National Communications Commission, NTC, denied plans to shut down telecom sites in Katsina. The NTC had refuted a trending social media story claiming that the Commission had ordered telecom service providers to shut down their sites in Katsina. In a statement, Director General Media Abdul Labaran Malumfashi had said the Executive Vice Chairman, CEO of the NTC, Professor Umar Dambata, had spoken to the state government on the matter where he said the story was false. He added that the purported letter trending in the social media was a cloned version of the one sent to Zamfara State, where there is a total shutdown of telecom sites. NTC had issued a directive to telecom operators to shut down their services in the neighboring Zamfara State from September 3rd to enable security agencies to carry out required operations in relation to the pervasive security challenges. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has deployed more effective and sophisticated means to uncover dubious strategies adopted by drug offenders to traffic hard and illicit substances. Chairman of the agency, Buba Marwa, gave the assurance while speaking at a media parley in Lagos, where he gave an update on the seizure of amphetamines, also known as Captagon, which were intercepted at the Apapa port in Lagos.
And you can imagine the havoc that this would cause had this passed through to the recipients in Nigeria. I think the message must be clear now that the NDLEA has zero tolerance for the production of drugs, trafficking of it, and of course drug abuse.
A delegation from West Africa's main political and economic bloc, ECOWAS, will head to Guinea today, 2 days after it suspended the country's membership in response to a military coup that removed President Alpha Condé. A member of the delegation, Alpha Barry, the Burkinabe member, said foreign ministers of Burkina Faso, Ghana, Nigeria and Togo are due to land in the capital Conakry as representatives of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The high-level diplomatic mission is expected to demand the return to constitutional order and to push for the immediate release of Condé, who was arrested by special forces led by Lieutenant Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya on Sunday. Life in the capital is gradually returning to normal, with markets reopening their doors as citizens await the announcement of a new government. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 727 new COVID-19 cases in 17 states, and the FCT. Latest figures released show that Rivers tops the chart with 257 new cases, followed by Lagos recording 157. Edo records 85, Imo 63, FCT 33, and Delta 28. Other states recording new cases are Kaduna with 27, Benue 17, Akwa Ibom and Ekiti 13 each, Taraba 12, and Bayelsa 5. Both Kano and Ogun states record 4 new cases each, Oyo 3, while Abia, Nasarawa and Plateau states record 2 cases each. Nigeria now has a total of 197,773 confirmed cases, out of which 185,597 have been treated and discharged. 2,585 persons have died since the virus broke out. That's the news for now. The program continues very shortly after this break with Kingsley and Kieran. Good morning.
Well, the housing solution we have developed is a multifaceted one. First, we have tried to lead a program to build what we think will be an acceptable and hopefully affordable housing type based on surveys we did in 2015-2016 and construction that started in 2017. And that's going on in 34 states as the National Housing Program.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
It's scary, isn't it? Putting yourself out there, ignoring the voices telling you you can't. Moments like these are when your fight or flight response kick in. Will you step aside? Or will you go for it? After all, what's the worst that could happen? So, keep trying. Don't stop. Don't give up. Push harder. Give it everything you've got. Because nothing is really impossible when you dig deep. Believe in yourself and go for it. Aladana, available in many variants to nourish you every step of the way.
We are StarTimes, the most affordable digital pay TV platform with the widest signal coverage in Nigeria, dedicated to bringing the best TV entertainment around the world to your screen. From Hollywood to Bollywood to Nollywood, we offer the most affordable subscription. Enjoy over 75 channels for as low as 1,700 naira, like Nat Geo Wild, BBC, ESPN, and premium sports like Emirates FA Cup, La Liga, Bundesliga, wrestling. What's more exciting? We have the most flexible payment options in Nigeria. Don't dull. Join us now for an exciting journey. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
welcomes you back to school. Have a session filled with lots of fun and excitement. Stay safe, stay healthy. Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
Sitting on the wrong end of the table, Arsenal welcome fellow stragglers Norwich City to the Emirates. Will the Gunners finally get their first Premier League points or goal? This Saturday, it's Arsenal versus Norwich City on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. It's time for business news, and our correspondent Kunle Adeyeye has a story.
The world has gone digital in every aspect. The economic landscape is now taken over by fiat currency, cryptocurrency, or digital currency. Many central banks now go the way of digital currency called Central Bank Digital Currency (CBDC). Nigeria's central bank is also catching up with the trend as it has announced its intention to launch digital currency, which is e-Naira, before the end of the year. A cryptocurrency expert, Solomon Esau, says the Apex Bank is embracing the latest trend.
Digital currency is under the control of the government. So the digital currency can be printed by the central bank of any country, the Central Bank of Nigeria, Central Bank of America, any country, a government is government controlled. So government can control the movement of digital currency. For instance, if there's a limit to your travel allowance, you say you don't travel with more than $10,000, for instance. No, with digital currency, you can still maintain that level.
He emphasized that the future of money lies in digital currency. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
All right, thank you, Kunle, for that business package. And up ahead on the program is newspaper review.
Newspaper reviewer Bayo Atoyebe is with us in the studios. Good morning, Bayo. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning. Good morning, Kyria.
All right, welcome, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, let's go straight to the Nation newspaper, and let's begin from above the nameplate. Feign 3 others to plan PDP convention office zoning. Page 28 is where the story is in details. UN warns against attacks on schools and abductions. Stakeholders halt trend. That's on page 29. The lead story this morning, Buhari, I will stabilize security economy before leaving. Igbo can't secede from Nigeria, says the president of Ohaneze. Well, the president and Ohaneze, actually. That's a kicker to that lead story on the Nation newspaper. ASU insists on resumption of strike. That's on page 28. ASU insists on resumption of strike. Lagos moves closer to VAT collection. That's also on page 28. Lagos moves closer to VAT collection. House passes bill. All right, and on the foot of Shebajo Adeboye Obasanjo governors bid a building's father farewell. Basically, that's all about it here.
Okay, we'll take a look at the window page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Below the name flag says, doubt over NNPC's viability as liabilities exceed assets by 4.6 trillion naira. GSM network shut down in 13 local government areas in Katsina. And then above that, school children in captivity. Federal government collect Bini Yauri, been in captivity for 86 days. And Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, in Kaduna, captivity for 68 days. Suicide on the rise as Nigeria records 51 cases in 12 months. Suicide on the rise as Nigeria records 51 cases in 12 months. poverty, drugs, marital instability, as well as insurgency responsible. That's attributed to doctors. Governments, employers, landlords, families must act fast. Southeast leaders promise to remain in Nigeria as Buhari visits Imo. And the photograph on the front page there, of course, shows the president at Owerri when he visited the state yesterday. Intrigues as Adamawa and Enugu governors planned PDP convention and zoning committees. 120 bandit gangs operate with 60,000 AK-47 rifles in 6 northern states. 120 bandit gangs operate with 60,000 AK-47 rifles in 6 northern states, and that's according to a study. Now, the study, of course, came from the work of Dr. Murtala Rufai, who delivered a public lecture yesterday at Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto. Now, the title of the paper, I Am a Bandit, a decade of research in Zamfara bandits' den. Dr. Rufai said he had a one-on-one interaction with some of the bandits' leaders. He explained that the gangs of bandits engaged in mass killing of innocent people, cattle rustling, kidnapping, gender-based violence, and other human rights violations. So in total, according to him, back to the front page, it says 12,000 persons killed, 250,000 livestock rustled in Zamfara, and that motorcycles donated by politicians used for attacks. Bayo.
Frightening statistics. That's on average about 1,000 AK-47 per state from the 6 states that he has identified.
That's right. There are 120 bandit groups. According to him, each of them, has about 500 AK-47.
120, again, if you divide by the 6 states, on the average, about 20,000 of them per state.
Precisely.
That's very alarming. Anyway, President Muhammadu Buhari, on a one-day visit to Imo, commissioned projects of the Governor Uzo Dima administration. After going around, he said his vision of having a secured Nigeria with the huge infrastructural progress matches that of Governor Hope Uzodinma. He promised to support the Uzodinma administration constitutionally to achieve more. At a meeting with Southeast leaders and a town hall meeting, President said, he want to be remembered as one who stabilized Nigeria in the area of security, economic prosperity, and triumph over corruption. He said, security is #1 priority, adding that if the economy, when the people feel secured, they will learn to mind their own business. Fighting corruption, he said, has become sophisticated and very difficult, but will strive and leave a legacy of integrity and accountability in the system. On the issue of 2023 election, the president affirmed a commitment to free, fair, and credible election, urging leaders to educate their constituents to hold elected leaders accountable. He promised to complete key projects in the southeast, including the second Niger Bridge and also the railway. He said, as a group, the Igbo have an enterprising stand and will benefit more from infrastructural development. The Ohanese Igbo president, Professor George Obiozo, assured that Igbo is committed to unity of Nigeria. And he said, Igbo, as a fish in an ocean, won't leave despite the storm. The vice president, Professor Yemi Oshibaju, says that the Nigerian elite have been promoting insecurity through whipping up sentiments. He was speaking at a leadership ceremony, and he said some elites can't come to consensus when it comes to insecurity. Our political, economic, and religious elite are socially irresponsible, either by selfish interest or lack of self-awareness. They are unable to build the consensus upon which a just and orderly society can stand. They resort to promoting tribal and religious front lines for legitimacy. The Sultan was also at the event. Sultan Saad Abubakar III said that God did not make a mistake by bringing people together in Nigeria. He said it is important to look at broader issues that bind us together than the little ones that separate us. He stressed that those fanning the embers of hatred through religion and will not succeed. He said, we will succeed, we will not succumb to the atrocities, and we will not give in, and we will continue to work for the betterment of our great country, Nigeria. This was at the editor-in-chief of the leadership, who was at the award ceremony, also paid tribute to late Sam Nda Isaiah. There's a report about phone network which Kingsley read earlier on. Yes, telecom services in 13 local government areas of Katsina State are said to have been put on hold. The lockdown affected 10 of the states that are in the fringes of the Rugu forest, which is said to be the precinct of the hideouts for the bandits. The 3 other local government areas that are affected are Funtua, Bakuri, and Malumfashi. Daily Trust had reported that the commission earlier had denied the letter on social media by saying that it was actually a clone of the letter the NCC has sent to Zamfara State. President Muhammadu Buhari has said that 4 coups within the last few months in the sub-region is unacceptable and dangerous. The president was represented by Vice President Osinbajo at a virtual extraordinary session of heads of states and government of ECOWAS and advocated for measures to prevent coups in the sub-region and even in the continent. And I can see that the president knows what he's talking about. If it is coup, he knows what it is to be brought into office by one and to be ousted by one. And therefore, now being a democratic president, he's strongly talking against coups. And the vice president who represented him also gave a suggestion. He said, we could get an understanding of UN, AU, and Commonwealth, as well as development finance institutions we are a member of, to act in unison. That is, to suspend any country where there has been a seizure of power from all bodies simultaneously. And the chairman of the ECOWAS, Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, said that is a very important position to be taken by the Commonwealth, by the ECOWAS body.
Well, there are 2 points of interest there for me in what has happened in Guinea and what has been happening in Guinea. One of the key issues that Vice President Osinbajo raised was to call on leaders in the region to respect their constitutions. So the whole idea of seeking to tweak the constitution in favor of an incumbent is partly what is responsible for all this. After office, there should be life, and there is indeed life after office. So why African leaders, and in particular those in West Africa, still would like to die in office is something that remains curious. Not only in Guinea, I mean, where he, of course, had to alter the constitution, and we also have it in Côte d'Ivoire, and thereafter they organize all these sham elections, where the incumbent scores, I mean, almost
up to 90%.
overwhelmingly. And that does not reflect the will and wishes of the people.
And even the Côte d'Ivoire I mentioned, I recall how the current president came to power.
Yes.
Because first there was a lot of misunderstandings, and that even led to the killing of some citizens of that country.
Mm-hmm.
Now he came, he wanted to remain in power again. And like the Guinea, for what Kingsley said, the truth of the matter is that this coup was basically because the man touched on the constitution to come back as a third-term leader. That's just basically what it is. Because the man in charge, the man responsible for the coup, what is the ADC?
In fact, there is a picture on the social media of him holding an umbrella over the head of the president. He was one of the closest aides of the president. But talking about what Kingsley referred to life after being in office, a critical example is Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia. He left office several years, and for several years he was behind the scene and was playing a prominent role like an African leader across the world.
Yeah, before he died this year. Of course, he was defeated in an election in 1991 by Chiluba. Chiluba, unfortunately, passed away many years before him.
And he bowed out.
He bowed out. Yes. But see what happened to Robert Mugabe, who wanted to remain there until it was the end. There's something that is very critical about Guinea. If you recall, when the coup makers announced restrictions on movements and so on and so forth, there was a talk about the mining sector. Guinea has become an attraction for investors in the mining sector.
Exactly.
In the mining sector. And that is something where, as we are seeking to help Guinea solve their problems, let us also be looking and seeing what is Guinea doing right about its mining sector. You know, of course, we say a lot about attracting investors, attracting investment, and you are asking yourself, where are the investors? Guinea is reaping a lot from the mining sector.
From mining sector, you know, and it's not only as rich as Nigeria when it comes to solid minerals. Yes. Not as rich as Nigeria. So I wonder why, you know, that has not happened here.
Not only Guinea, even Mali too. And there are indications that some of those who are carrying out illegal mining in Nigeria are migrants from that part of West Africa, because they have the expertise and the know-how in mining, and they are exploiting the loopholes that is available in Nigeria. The other story I like quickly to draw attention to is in Edo State, where the Edo State government said health workers who refuse to be vaccinated will not be allowed to treat patients. Similarly, teachers who do not accept vaccination will not be allowed to work. Teachers and public officers, because they don't want you to infect patients, they don't want to affect people. Well, similarly, there's a similar directive given by President Biden in the United States. He says big business must either be vaccinated or they will be tested weekly.
All right, Bayo, thank you for today's analysis. Well, we hope to see you again on Monday for another round of newspaper review on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
Thank you indeed, and have a great weekend. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network Service. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we will be focusing our attention on the issue on agriculture. Stay with us.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Dear compatriots, our country can be as great as we want.
Let us all commit ourselves to its greatness.
We must be willing to set aside our differences, unite and stay as one.
In our expansive landmass, human and material resources, and plurality lies our strength.
Let our challenges lead us to rediscover our common ground, and together, let's find solutions.
This will take some time, so it requires patience, tolerance, and forgiveness from every one of us.
Let all hands come on deck to protect and transform our country.
Let us unite and see each other not as adversaries, but as brothers and sisters.
Together, we can build a better Nigeria. for ourselves and for the next generations.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with support from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The federal government has commenced second phase of COVID-19 vaccination. If you are 18 years and above and unvaccinated, register at www.nphcda.vaccination.gov.ng. Visit the nearest vaccination site to receive AstraZeneca or Moderna COVID-19 vaccine as first dose. If you received your first dose of AstraZeneca vaccine before 8th July, get your second dose now. All COVID-19 vaccines are free and certified safe. At the vaccination site, you can check blood pressure and know your diabetes risk status. Children aged 0 to 23 months will receive childhood vaccines and screened for malnutrition. After vaccination, continue to adhere to COVID-19 prevention protocols. For more information, visit www.nphcda.gov.ng or call 0700-220-1122. This message is from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
Sitting on the wrong end of the table, Arsenal welcome fellow stragglers Norwich City to the Emirates. Will the Gunners finally get their first Premier League points or goal? This Saturday, it's Arsenal versus Norwich City on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
All right, you're welcome back. And as a prompt for our conversation segment, which is on integrated farm estates and food security, let's take this background report as put together by Ekene Ndulwe.
Nigeria's oil and gas resource has no doubt over decades left a damaging impact on the country's agricultural sector. Once the primary source of government revenue and foreign exchange earnings, agriculture in Nigeria has suffered from decades of underinvestment, corruption, policy neglect, and lost opportunities. Neglect of the country's agricultural potentials has led to Nigeria becoming a net importer of food, with the vast majority of people engaged in agriculture operating at subsistence level. The current food inflation in the country has also become an increasing source of worry. Hopefully, this situation is about to change with a number of policies introduced in the agricultural sector. The recent directive by President Muhammadu Buhari that the National Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA, should set up integrated farm estates in the 108 senatorial districts in the country is one of such policies. This program is expected to ensure food security, address herders farmers issues, and at the same time create job opportunities for the teeming unemployed youths in the country. So far, the Kogi State government has donated 700 hectares of land for the integrated land estate, while Ogun State has donated 100 hectares. Already, the Daura Integrated Farm Estate in Katsina State, which has the capacity to take in 1,500 young farmers, has been inaugurated, while that of Borno is 75% completed. What do states stand to gain from donating their lands for this project? What opportunities does it present for Nigerian youths? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria shall be speaking to the issues in a moment.
All right, thank you very much there for that backgrounder. Now, with us in the studios to discuss this subject matter, let's welcome Prince Paul Ikone. Prince Ikone is the Executive Secretary of the National Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA. Pleasure to have you this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. And
also here with us in the studios is Professor Mohammed Kuta Yahaya. He's a professor of agricultural extension and development communication at the University of Ibadan. He's also a former secretary to the government of Niger State. Prof, pleasure to have you this morning.
It's a pleasure to join you here. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm still here in the studio with us for this morning's program. We have an agronomist, Dr. Kabir Abiso. Dr. Abiso, it's good to have you.
Great to meet you.
All right.
Okay, let's begin with the Executive Secretary of NALDA, Prince Paul Ikone. Prince Paul Ikonen, tell us what the whole idea of the integrated farm settlements or integrated farm estates it's all about.
Thank you for the opportunity. The integrated farm estate is a brainchild of Mr. President, and in the bid to solve or to achieve food security and to have the young Nigerians attracted into agriculture and the entire value chain of farming. And the idea is to have everybody in one location and to have them properly trained and be able to have them monitored, supervised correctly, and to take the produce from one stage to the other. Like when you harvest your maize, the ability to do proper packaging and proper storage. If it is pepper, we'll be able to harvest, dry, and package for finished product. If it is fish, we'll be able to dry them, package them very well for consumption. If it is chicken, to do the same as well. So to have the entire process achieve towards getting to the table. Again, it's also to develop communities. The land, those lands that have been abandoned and that kidnappers are using as their safe havens, to open them up and have them to be properly useful and to reduce urban migration. Because with integrated farm estate, you are opening up a new village, a new community within the village. So it's a total blessing for the community and is a very good omen for the entire country. And the sole desire of Mr. President is to see that we achieve food security and use agriculture to reduce unemployment in the country.
All right, we've had also that in Daura we have one of these estates that we are talking about. We also learned that two state governments have also donated a plot of land for that purpose. What has been the reaction of some other states in the country? We have 36 states plus the FCT with respect to this agricultural estate in question.
Not only these two states. In Ebonyi State, we have cleared 100 hectares of land and ready to take off. In Kwara State, we have also cleared 100 hectares of land, also ready to take off. In Ekiti State, we have cleared 100 hectares of land and borehole installation is going on, and the crop aspect, like maize, we are planting maize. So states are keen into the project. In Imo State, also we have cleared about 70 hectares of land, and we are reactivating an abandoned existing farm estate in Imo State, which have been abandoned for almost 30 years. And that project is 75% to completion. In Abia State, the fish village we have cleared 100 hectares of land in Abia State, in Ariam to be precise, and the project is 75 to 80% to completion. In Yobe State, so the states are keen into the project, and to be very honest, Nigerians should be very grateful to Mr. President for this quick intervention to make sure that he doesn't leave Nigerians hungry. Leave Nigeria the way he inherited Nigeria in 2015. It's a project that will turn around the fortune of this country and reduce, like I keep saying, unemployment, and we achieve quality food production, because if farms are connecting to each other, the byproduct of the other one is used to grow the other one. So it's something that Nigeria have never experienced before, and it's good that it's happening at this time, because we have a president that has a heart desire to achieve food security in Nigeria.
Tell us something about the recruitment of operators or operatives or participants in the farm estate. because you say they will settle in. So how do you get participants to be engaged, and what are the terms of engagement?
The participants, the Nada Integrated Farm Estate is purely community-based. The community that donated the land is from that community that the farmers will come on board. If you are not from that immediate community, you will not be able to benefit from participating in the integrated farm estate. So it's purely community-based, and the community leaders, community heads, the traditional rulers are those people that to produce the list. Like in Gashua, the poultry village that is ready for commissioning. All those that are going to be participating, they are right now undergoing training. They are being trained, and they are from that community. So it's purely community-based, and that is where we are urging every community in Nigeria to key into this project in order to have their environment developed and have their youth off the labor market.
All right, we shall be delving into other areas of these other aspects of this agricultural estate as the program progresses. But now let's bring in Mohammed Yahya, Professor Mohammed Yahya of the University of Ibadan. You've been in government, as former secretary to the government of Niger State. What is your take, on this new initiative by Mr. President?
Thank you very much, Karen, and our very amiable Kingsley. We appreciate this opportunity NTA is giving to us to add our voice to the wonderful initiative by Mr. President. We congratulate him for this milestone. We see this as a milestone because he has not shy away from the fact, it's a assumed duty that agriculture is going to be the cornerstone of his transformation agenda. Indeed, the diversification, moving away from oil, and agriculture so far has done well for Nigeria in terms of contribution to the GDP. So this initiative is a wonderful milestone for this administration, and we congratulate Mr. President. And indeed, as the program manager has said, we are coming up with a situation where we want to change the narratives, especially the security question in Nigeria. We are glad that the emerging realities is that insecurity is already taking its backstage, and most of the affected areas are feeling the heat. And by the grace of God, many of the affected states, with the combined effort of the security agencies, will put those estates into proper perspective. We're clearing the land. Let me start, Karen, by saying the fact that the issue of integrated farm estate is not news. It's like it started with the Western Nigerian government under Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who started the farm settlement scheme, and that it was very instructive at that time, that it opened up land and new villages and settlements, and people moved in order to increase production for export purposes. So when the issue, after years, the petrodollar incursion into Nigeria, many people abandoned agriculture and moved into the cities in search of opportunities. So that affected our agricultural fortune. But we must congratulate the succeeding government. Babangida administration established NIDA in 1992 and created a platform clearing more land for access for people to go into agriculture. But a new dimension has been brought into it, the integrated approach, whereby young people who are craving for jobs, who are moving into urban areas in search of jobs that does not exist, are now going to be located in the integrated farm centers. And that the multidimensional aspect, entire agricultural value chain is going to be covered. And that I pray that the Chief Operating Officer will appreciate that there is a new dimension, the extension services that need to be incorporated into this agenda. From our own experience at the state level, you realize that most of the policies, if they are generated top-down, it affects the fortunes or success rate. So my experience is that whatever you initiate and you involved involve the grassroots at the takeoff, at the design and implementation, sustainability is guaranteed. And I can share example when we initiated the World Development Project in Niger State, which was like another tier of government where the communities initiate projects that are of priority interest to them, and government supported them, and they supervise them. So in this direction now, they can take a cue and learn from what happened in the World Development Project, where the communities initiate and design what is of priority to them. So with what is happening in the farm integrated program of the federal government, now it's going to add value to food security question of Nigeria, because many young people will be involved and it will tame rural-urban migration. But the challenge now is sustainability question and indeed expansion along the entire agricultural value chain. Independently now, so many people are having aquaculture estates in many states, including Niger and other states. So I believe with this initiative, it's going to add value to the diversification agenda of Mr. President, and it will add to his slogan that we must grow what we eat and eat what we grow. So that one is a mission towards the fulfillment of Mr. President's aspiration for a greater agricultural enterprise for Nigeria. And that indeed, for us in the agricultural sector at the tertiary level, most of our students now are entrepreneurs. They are no longer students waiting to say take certificate. They now get involved even as students. And I can give example just a week ago. The Samad Bello Memorial Foundation, where I'm privileged to be a member of the advisory council, organized a retreat for Ahmed Bello, Samad Bello scholars, where about 200 of them that have graduated from universities, 46% of them were first class across 19 northern states in agriculture, medicine, in veterinary medicine, and different areas of sciences. One of them came with a testimonial that the director must track this person to Sokoto. He said when he was giving scholarship 100,000 naira, he felt that money was too much for him. He needed to invest this money in order to sustain his disease. So he invested in buying ram, 15,000, and he bought 4. Kept them until Salah came, and he sold each one for 70,000. He realized 280,000 naira. He plowed that into another investment again. He realized 500,000 naira. In the process, he bought a motorcycle for 200,000, bought additional ram of 300,000, used the money from the motorcycle for the Okada to feed the rams. He said, as at now, he has no less than 150 rams in his stead. This is a student from university. So with this now, what the integrated farm estate is talking about is that if you give the student opportunity, they are going to grow and they will increase the economy and boost our production system.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Professor Mohammed Yahaya, for your insight and the example you just indicated. Incidentally, yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, we were discussing arbitrary fixing of prices of goods and services. And one of the examples that came up had to do with the seasonal inflation that we see in terms of food prices. If it is during Ramadan, you will see prices of fruits, they all go up. If it is during Salah, you see the price of ram will go up, and that student is taking advantage of it. But we do hope that when there is a ramp up in production, these cyclical increases will not be available, to put pressure on the pockets of consumers. Right. All right, so Dr. Kabir Abiso, let's bring you into the conversation right now. As Professor Mohammed said, straight away, we all knew that the Western region led the way with agricultural farm settlements in the past until, of course, they fell into disuse. There were also a couple of farm settlements, I believe, in the southeast. But from what we are hearing about the integrated farm estates, what kind of model is this? And what is the attraction in this, assuming that, the details are clear?
Thank you very much. You see, in fact, integrated farm estate is a really welcome idea by the President. This issue is supposed to be linked with the program which initially, when we have the
food security last previous years when we have a serious pandemic globally, this COVID. You all agree with me that this program of Uncle Bora's program, which was initiated by Mr. President Buhari, has tried to
speak up a little bit.
Yeah, has tried to bring us a very fundamental food security in the country. Why? Because during the COVID, the farmers no longer been farming. Everybody was locked down. The main food, the main storage that we have during the program of Uncle Bora's program, which has been initiated by the president, we had that storage, and with the collaboration of the Minister of Humanitarian, which we provide some food to the communities and to the desired, what they call it, to the population. Now, with this program of integrated farm estate, this is a new kind of a model which a farmer now can be able to, all the farmers are being bring clusters, being arranged in a cluster. I commend the effort of NALDA because with now initiative, this opening of new lands whereby they have to integrate and make all the infrastructural facilities within the system and ecosystem. I agree that we need to first identify this land. Is it a yield land? We have to identify whether this land is a yield land, because we cannot go to whereby a land which has been so overutilized, overused. So we have to identify that this land has to be yield land. Then, second issue is we need to focus on this land. Is it located to around a river or around a water like? Because you cannot go whereby we identify a land, a land whereby it's a far to water base. With this kind of closeness, with this kind of arrangement, whereby we can be able to fit all the facilities, both the poultry section, both the processing sector and everything. This enclosure will be able to arrange a chain value whereby a farmer can be able to have an accessibility, have to have a market intelligence system whereby, as you were rightly informed, we are talking about the inflation of the prices and all. Farmers are no longer being informed about the inputs. How much is the price of the input now? And then after harvesting, what are the prices? So this kind of market linkages, a farmer has to have that kind of information because it is a driving factor to assure that all the integrated farm essay where you can be able to train and retrain. Because every local government has a peculiar nature. Other local government, they don't need fishery. Other local government, but with this integrated, you can arrange and you can achieve all the variables, because you can be able to have to plant some trees, agriculture, you can make it some crops that are not available. We cannot be able to use it in
you
other.
You know what, Dr. Abiso, let me interrupt you there so that we get more information in the meantime from the Executive Secretary of NALDA. Executive Secretary, Prince Ikone, tell us, what is the model of this integrated farm estate? In other words, you've already said that recruitment will be from the immediate community that donates the land. What are the facilities on the farm, and is it residential or non-residential? And then what will be the cropping pattern, or if you're targeting value addition, what should we expect? Many questions, but just take it one after the other. What is the model? What is on the farm at the estate? Is it residential or non-residential?
Thank you very much. It depends on the environment or the community. Some will be residential, some will not be residential, the peculiarity of every environment. Like Daura is residential, and after every 1 year, the set will pass out. They would have made their money in order to establish. Because in Daura Integrated Farm Estate, we are working with Jaiz Bank, which is managing the farm. So thereby it makes it easier for the bank to know that a certain person have gotten to a level of funds in his account that will help him start his personal farming activities at home, whereby the bank can go further to support the person, knowing fully whether the person have gotten the experience. He knows how to, if it is animal husbandry, the person knows how to take care of his animals. If it is crop farming, he knows how to manage his irrigation system and the quantity of water to be spent. So when that set passes out, another set comes in another 1 year. And while they are in the farm, they are making their money. They are also undergoing trainings so that they will be able to acquire the knowledge in the area they have interest. And at the same time, they are enriching themselves so that by the time they pass out, they will have money to stand on their feet, to run their personal agribusiness. That is the major focus. But we have different types of crops, again, depending on the environment. Like in Imo State, we have piggery in Imo State. So we'll have the pig farmers, and then we'll have the processors and packages. So those ones now will be going through trainings on how to take care of their animals, and those that will be processing and packaging will also go through the trainings. Like in Daura, we have a training center, which will be the same case in all our integrated farm estate. There must be a training center, there must be a recreation center, there must be school, there must be clinic, in order to take immediate taking the immediate need. Like again in Maiduguri as well, we have all this in place, coming up in that place. We are using Daura farm to be one of the pepper finished producing farm, where from crop level to harvesting to packaging, so that by the time the pepper is going to the market, you'll be buying finished product. The idea of exporting raw materials outside the country is what we're also trying to cut short here, so that our raw materials will be turned to finished product, thereby creating more job opportunities for our teeming youth. So it's a model that takes in everything into consideration. We are training extension service providers. We call them soil doctors. Like in Osun, we have finished training 100 of them, 100 young graduates that have their background in science or agri studies. The 200 trained in Maiduguri have been commissioned. In Jigawa State also, we have trained another set of 100. So these are part of a preparation in order to have the integrated farm estate fully equipped with all the agri assistance that are required, all the support that they will need. We have veterinary doctors also in the integrated farm estate. Some of these vet doctors are professionals, but then the young ones will learn under them in order to perfect and acquire the required knowledge that they need to sustain the farm and assist the farmers.
All right, sorry, I'm not cutting you short. You may have to continue, but let me just add this up. You've mentioned the fact that Jaiz Bank, is actually funding that of Daura, and one will also wonder if there are other financial establishments that are interested in funding other estates in different parts of the country, because invariably you are talking about a holistic approach to agriculture, because from what you have explained, everything should be there, from cultivation to processing and to marketing. So that means it's holistic, and that's why, of course, you call it the integrated farm estates. Right. What about funding?
Okay. Jaiz Bank is not funding. They are managing. You know, one thing is to establish, another thing is to manage for sustainability. So in like the one in Imo, some other institutions have also indicated interest. Funding is coming from the federal government. It's purely budgeted project, but we now brought them together and then integrate them to be in one location. Instead of scattering our project, we'll put them in one location. So it is purely federal government funded project, but managed by institutions, because we want to make sure that sustainability is assured. And based on that, the farmers will be serious. If you have such project and you're not able to put a managerial system, a good managerial system in place, that is where the issue of sustainability becomes a huge challenge to it. So that was also taken into account, that our technical team on ground with an institution will take care of the management of the integrated farm estate.
And some people may also ask this question, you know, of the capacity or capability of a bank to manage a farm. I don't know the connection. What is the connection there? Does Jai's Bank, you know, have already trained the farmers, especially when you're talking about corporate farming, from what you have explained so far?
Excellent. They are not the ones that will run day-to-day activities of the farm, making sure that there is water pumped and all that, but the financial aspect of it, so that there will not be any recklessness. Before anything goes out from the farm, they would have confirmed the teller that payment has been made, so that the farmer will get what is due to him at the end of that sales. So that's why we brought in a bank, knowing full well that there are financial institutions that are very good in managing finances and make sure that unnecessary expenses or incurring debt doesn't occur. So not that they are going to run, they are not running the supervisory aspect of the farm, like taking care of the poultry, the crop section, or the fish. No, they are not.
Okay, tell us something, Prince Ikone, still with you before we bring in Professor Mohammed. What does a potential participant require before being eligible for the program? And once selected, what do you do? If you select me, for instance, do I just come to the integrated farm? How will I get my seeds and seedlings? How will I get my other inputs? How will I get my implements? What do I bring?
Okay. First of all, the first thing that qualifies you is to come from that immediate community. That is the first qualification. And when your name has been submitted alongside with others, now that takes it from there. Now, these are people that are being taken off labor market, so we are not expecting them to make any contribution except making themselves available and to show the willingness and the zeal to be into farming. So from there, we'll take them through trainings. Now that provides all, but we recoup all that we invest over a period of time. Again, that is why we brought in bank, because by the time the bank assesses the total investment of the federal government, it makes it easier for them to begin to discount the investment of the federal government, so we can recoup back and use to reinvest in another place. So that every period we'll be able to have funds to get the seedlings or to get the inputs, you know, to re-inject inside the integrated farm estate for sustainability sake. So the farmer, all the farmer needs is to say, yes, I'm willing, and then you are from that immediate environment, and then the person's name is submitted, then the trainings will start, and the person begins to enjoy his business in the integrated farm estate.
All right. You know, Kirian, yeah. There's something that I would like Professor Mohammed Yahya to respond to, following from the explanation by the Executive Secretary. Prof, I mean, the explanation by Prince Ikone is lucid, but it looks like the integrated farm estates is more a one-year training program than the farm settlement that we knew of in the Western region. Now, is it a shotgun approach that 1 year, you know, you grew, and then you are pushed out? From your experience, shouldn't this be I mean, Prince Ikone is smiling. He's smiling. But I'm just wondering, I mean, is 1 year enough, really? Assuming I'm a rookie, if I have no idea whatsoever what agric is all about. So in 1 year, I go through the entire, I cultivate, and then see the processing, and then see the marketing. After that one, you push me out, and then I start struggling on my own period.
And not only that, you know, what is the possibility of someone who has been there for 1 year? How can he make it, you know, when he leaves the estate? But perhaps because of the population of Nigeria, you want a set to come and go, another set to come. So many people will have the experience and all of that. Now, how do they now survive when they leave that enclave? It's also part of the issues that may come up.
Thank you very much. Prince Ikone, I think I will suggest strongly that after this program, we are going to negotiate with Agricultural Extension Society of Nigeria and the Nigerian Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services for an intervention in terms of collaboration in how to achieve sustainability of this agenda and to interrogate the issues properly. That this program on Good Morning Nigeria is not enough. If we have to look at all the issues, then that means we are going to spend the whole day and it will be over. So I would suggest, Kingsley, that after this program, we are going to design an agenda for sustainability and to interrogate all the issues so that we don't make the mistakes of the past. The pitfalls of agricultural development programs sponsored by the World Bank. You can imagine how it was so glamorous, how it was so attractive, but immediately after the withdrawal of the World Bank funding, the entire ADPs collapsed in Nigeria. It's no longer news. The extension system went comatose. And that you are now designing another program without due consideration for the involvement of extension professionals, without due involvement of all the stakeholders in terms of funding, in terms of agro-allied industrial processing, in terms of off-takers, because you can even produce, and there will be no off-taker. At the end of the day, these young people will be frustrated. So you need to look at all these issues. You can locate markets, you can locate end users before they even go into the process. And the issue of one shotgun approach is very dangerous, because from the experiences we have had with interventions like skill acquisition programs, you train people, you give them clippers, you give them wheelbarrow, you give them all these things. By the time they exit the gate, they sell all of it. And they move on to do other things. So I don't think we need this kind of intervention. On a sustainable basis, we must give these young people opportunity to provide leadership, for them to contribute. Even the community-driven development approach to initiatives like this, you don't say people should not contribute anything. There will be no sense of responsibility. There must be some contribution that will be attached to them either by the community or by the leaders who are sponsoring them. Their guarantors must ensure that they must leave some room so that they have contribution. If they don't have any contribution, they will not be obliged to protect what you are trying to give to them or try to give to them in terms of knowledge, in terms of equipment, in terms of support system. So I believe, sir, to the way forward, let us bring in extension properly into this agenda. It's an opportunity for you, because all of our Nigerian university systems now, there is no faculty of agriculture that does not have a department of agricultural extension. They have produced graduates all across the country at undergraduate, at postgraduate levels, and they'll be willing to even work as freelance in your farm estates to provide the skills, to provide the guidance and life skill that these young people need in terms of living a life even without the farm estate. But now you are talking about community-driven approach. We know the politicization that are likely going to come in. We know that if you know somebody, man-knows-man syndrome can affect it. We need to have a laid-down criteria where people go into that place must meet the minimum standard so that people will go there with the expectation that they're going to contribute to positively change the narratives. So let us go for something that will be sustainable and learn from previous pitfalls of initiatives like this and what happened and why this one must not fail. Because Mr. President is serious-minded. Mr. President is interested in agriculture. Mr. President is interested in the extension system. And if you want to interrogate all the issues, extension must become the nerve center of your initiatives because of the training in terms of human and rural sociological approaches that we have used to train our students to become professionals in handling matters of this nature.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Mohamed Yahaya. Again, Dr. Abiso, why we are on this issue? Because everything revolves now around sustainability of the program, and there are a number of points that have come up. It looks like, it's the farm estates will be a training ground, just 1 year. Yes. And as I said, if you bring in a total novice about agriculture, but who is interested in getting that, you could then have a challenge on your hands. I mean, simple example to give. Empower program, for instance, by the administration, is a 2-year program. Not 1 year. You have persons who are interested, and before they exit the program, they would have gained sufficient knowledge, sufficient experience. But for agriculture, I don't know what the cycle of cropping is now. I know that there are so-called varieties that can yield within some months, and so on and so forth. But I imagine that for the knowledge to percolate and settle, and then for you to really grasp what you are supposed to do and then be useful to yourself outside, there is need to tweak some of these things. What are your thoughts on some of these aspects, especially the issues raised by Professor Yahaya?
Well, thank you, Professor. What we are trying to see is, in terms of sustainability, in terms of getting a good training to farmers, and that training, when the farmer, after a certain period, like 1 year or 2 years, you see, there must be kind of linkages, and there has to be a collaboration with other agencies. Now, we have a package when we process everything. And then when every state brought their own goods into market system, as we need to have an off-takers, and then this package goods. These are things that we need to think of, how these goods and how the farmer, when a certain period, when he has already gained the knowledge, and because this gaining of knowledge, when having a training, and when this farmer got a yield seed that has tried to improve his income, then I believe he can be able to leave the integrated farm and then establish his own farm, because he has already acquired a knowledge, 1. 2, he has already got a new variety seed which can yield him from, assuming 2 tons, and he has already identified that there is a yield, there is a seed that he can be able to get 5 tons to 6 tons. So with this, it has already increased his annual income. I mean, he has already generated more income. But sustainability on, after getting this kind of product is for him to see if this market-driven system has been favorable to him. 1, because the system which we can be able to get all the product, and then the trainer and the farmer who has been trained must get, 1, must have this kind of, what do you call it, a secured environment whereby he can be able to establish his own system of farming. Because if he cannot be able to, when he leaves the integrated farm now, and then next 2 years, where can he farm? That is place. It's good. It has a good variety, seed variety, that can be able to, or if he's doing fishery or what do you call it, if he has that kind of funds that can be able to sustain him for more years, for him to survive and improve his income and then his livelihood. These are things which we have to focus.
Yeah, I hope hope you've listened, Prince Ikone, because this framework, in place, as we rightly said earlier, it's very lucid. It just appears to be a kind of an incubation center, where you incubate these farmers, and after a while they will leave and establish on their own. But then the intricacies of the entire thing is what we have been trying to interrogate, as Professor Yahaya did mention. He raised a very, very pertinent issue with respect to sustainability. I'm sure your mind has been going there. Add this to it. Now, if a farmer, who wants to do, maize, for instance, Kingsley talked about cropping cycle, right? And within some months, if you have a good variety, you could harvest. That is all right. Then how do you now go into process? You have to process it. You have to package it, of course, to ensure that the production chain is properly taken care of for you to be able to market it as a whole package. Now, what time would somebody have within a year to do all of this? And and if you're in animal husbandry, for instance, how do you now, like piggery you mentioned in Imo State? You know what I mean? If a pig should be able to biologically recycle itself and have it takes over a year to do that, right? So how is this one-year program going to fit in? Because if this program, as beautiful as it is, cannot be sustained, then it becomes a ruse. And also, that you said that the idea is to establish these centers in 3 senatorial zones of each state. So it's going to be huge, it's going to be and capital intensive as well. So how is it going to come up?
Excellent. First of all, let me take the cycle aspect. Like the professor did say here, that a student took his money, 100,000 given to him, and invested in a ram while still in school. So he needed not to be in the integrated farm estate to achieve that. All he needed was just to show interest. 100,000, and he was able to grow his income from there. So now, if you look at the NYSC scheme, till today is still running. Till today. So 1 year is not too short. And the farmers are not going to be engaged in all the processes. You must identify where your interest is and focus on that. If you have interest in animal husbandry, you must be specific. Do you want to go into cow rearing or milk processing? Or do you want to go into goat rearing? Or do you want to do poultry? Or you want to go into aquaculture like fishery? Then if you have interest in processing, that is where you are going to be focusing. So the program is not designed that a farmer must be involved in all. No, not at all. It's designed in a way that you choose where you belong. We have 3 greenhouses in Daura. Those that have shown interest in the greenhouse, they have no business going towards the fishery section. They are concentrating in that section. We have also honey bee apiens, sorry. Those that are showing interest in honey processing, they have no business going towards the crop section. So you must identify your interest and then focus on it. Then now, when you are taking part in what you want to do, it makes it easier for you to take in what will be given to you. Let me establish this, that the equity, what they are bringing on board, the community have already donated land. And that land serves as community contribution. And that is why the community is in the position to nominate those that will come on board. If you just take in one set of people and allow them to remain there permanently, you are not giving room for others also to come on board and acquire knowledge, raise capital, and move forward or further to establish their own personal businesses. There are a lot of young Nigerians, graduates, that have gone into agricultural businesses on their own without support. So many of them have gone into, I've seen some of them establishing small poultries around their houses. Some also are into crop farming, but they don't have the implements. Some of them, they don't have the seeds. So now you have this environment that gives you the training for you to know how modern farming is done, and also gives you support at the end of the day, because being in the environment at the same time, you are making money to establish your own. So I think is a welcome idea. But if you not say, we look at the time, should we add additional 6 months to make it 18 months for them to stay in the farm? Sometimes, again, it makes it difficult that if you are not able to perfect, understand that you must do soil tests and understand what the soil requires before you can plant, and you should know when to plant and when to harvest and when to weed within 1 year. That means in 2 years you won't be able to, because there are a lot of people in the villages that may following their parents to farm, shown interest, and they are practicing it in a local way. So we looked at a lot of issues critically before we arrived at it, with professionals on board. The extension service is key, and we are not playing at all about it. That's why we have drawn people from that environment. And like the Prof said, we are going to also partner with them. We wrote to Institute of Soil Science of Nigeria at the beginning of this program. When we are designing the program, we wrote to them for them to engage in training these young Nigerians. And we are open, because it's government. The synergy is key. The contributions of ideas and commitment is also very important to achieving all these programs. Most especially is for our own good in the country. It's for the good and benefit of the country. Now, asking about market, where would they get market if we produce enough? Let us first of all produce enough and eat very well first. Then you will see that the market will come. In some countries, because they have enough, they're able to feed their animals, they are able to feed the fish with food. So our major challenge here, like Kylian rightly pointed out, the increase in food prices. That is what we want to first of all achieve. Knock down the cost of food, prices in Nigeria, and see that every family can afford to feed on a quality food. So it's not going to be always. The population of Nigeria is growing every day, and as we produce, we consume, and we have neighboring countries around us. I pray that we'll have excesses, and when that time comes, all of us will be happy.
Prince, in terms of technology, what role does biotech, play in this? Is it going to play any role in terms of production method, to be able to have a high yield from some of the, crops or even their animals?
Yeah, definitely we are partnering with a lot of institutions, but there's something we must not lose focus. We want to also use the integrated farm estate to retain some of our original seeds and stocks. A lot of technology is going on, a lot of crossbreeding, a lot of formulations, a lot of science are being put to what we're doing. But, we keep buying and keep consuming. We cannot reproduce. So we are trying also to use some of these farms to retain our original foundation seeds, in the country, as much as we embrace biotech and embrace organizations that profile modern technology in modern agricultural farming.
All right, thank you very much. And gentlemen and viewers, we're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Trying our best to contain the situation in our operations. We've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities. And we've been able to also recover, particularly arms and ammunition, from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all. To look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Guide is out exclusively with Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State.
Since assuming office, our rescue administration has pursued the path of peace and reconciliation and restored confidence among people of different ethnic, religious, and political persuasions. Peace is back on the plateau. We are building world-class infrastructure in roads and opening up opportunities for innovation.
The edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from entertainment, economy, sports, media, politics, family, and lots more. Pick up a copy and keep abreast with issues and trending features within our space. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Sitting on the wrong end of the table, Arsenal welcome fellow strugglers Norwich City to the Emirates. Will the Gunners finally get their first Premier League point or goal? This Saturday, it's Arsenal versus Norwich City on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have all our three guests. Professor Mohammed Yahya, let's again try to drill into some of the disclosures by the Executive Secretary of NALDA. In terms of the takeoff, the President's approval is for farm estates in 109 senatorial districts. At some point, I had raised that issue. Where are you going to have a farm estate in the Lagos Central, for instance, which is highly urbanized? Unless you're going to knock down buildings and then let people, or you're going to set up a farm estate on the Lagos Lagoon. But, you know, much more seriously, one of the challenges that we have often faced with public policy has to do with implementation. On paper, things could be good, but when it gets to the level of implementation, we start having hiccups. And then, you know, the performance rate, of course, declines. I'm just wondering, instead of kicking off now, I don't know how many local governments or how many senatorial districts, could we attempt it by, say, number of percentages? Say, we are going to start off with 10% or 20% of the senatorial districts, which will give you a certain number. 10% will give you like 10.9, which is like 11 senatorial districts. That will be 11 locations. So you experiment with that for a couple of years, and then you get back to the drawing board, you learn your lessons, you move on to the next stage, and so on and so forth. And then back again to this whole issue of, you know, the duration for the for the training. It seems so linear to say, oh, you cultivate, you harvest, you process, and then you market. There could be disasters in a farming season, pests and diseases. There has been warning by NISA, which is the Hydrological Services Agency, about flooding in some locations. Kebbi, we saw last year what happened to them in terms of, so how do you cope if you are a farmer? Because by the time you are on your own, you are expected to have some knowledge, you know, in dealing with some of these adversities.
Thank you very much. I think, Kingsley, what happened is Mr. President is in a hurry to address the food security question of Nigeria. And that beautiful policies are bound to be presented. And if you are the one, you will love anything that is good, that is going to change the face of Nigerian agriculture in terms of food security. So, but be that as it may, I will suggest that let's look at what happened to the agricultural development projects in Nigeria. It started with enclave projects in Gombe, Aigba, and Bida. It didn't start from the 36 states. It was gradual, as you said, Gusau, then gradually it expanded to 12 states, and then later to the 36 states. Because when you learn from your experiences, you further improve what you are doing. So in this circumstance, because we're in a political era, if you do in one senatorial district, they will think you are partial. But as you said, we could have taken a micro level development intervention at each state level, whereby you take one senatorial district in each state, for example, The success of that will now lead you to what happened in other senatorial districts, so that we don't take it all at the same time. We are gradual, we learn from our lessons, and we learn also to engage the stakeholders who are going to add value. I'll give an example of a location in Niger State, Tungakao. I normally give example of that community in the Wushishi local government. They have an irrigation project, and the capacity is about 10,000 hectares. This irrigation project, they're able to produce rice 3 times in a cycle in a year. After the first rainfall, by the time they are harvesting, the rice on its own grow again because they're still in the raising. They will harvest that one. Then during the dry season, they will now use irrigation to produce the entire cycle. So if you look at those kind of communities, you will appreciate anything you want to establish there. You are going to take into cognizance the kind of crop they grow, the kind of available facilities on the ground, so that you're not operating on a tabula rasa. It's going to even reduce your cost of investment. In addition, recently, there is a firm in Abuja, business visa training, organized women, about 30,000 women registered, doing what we call incredible value addition to all manner of products in agricultural value chain. And they produce, process. Somebody in Apple is taking off these women. I've witnessed it several times, and Kingsley, I will invite you to visit that business visa. You'll be shocked about what a Nigerian is doing to women. They will bring all this product, you buy it off them, and then locate markets and sell at the other time because they have added value. I saw Ijebu Gari, I saw banana, what we call plantain flour for diabetic people. I saw ginger processed for export. Do you know he did an exhibition in Eagle Square? Many MDAs did not come. But all the ambassadors, about 18 ambassadors came to that program. And 4 of them have invited him to come to their country to come and implement this program. And I told him, Alaji, what happened between Nigeria and Malaysia is likely going to happen here. We're on the same page with Malaysia in oil palm production. But because of our own negligence, Malaysia moved on to become the leading global player in oil industry. And Indonesia, their neighbors, because of the massive land available, they overtook Malaysia. The time Malaysia doesn't have even land available again. Now look at our country. With the massive land we have, not more than 30% have been cultivated. 80% is arable. So we still have the potential to beat the world. So if we are serious, what business visa has demonstrated in Nigeria is a case study. But I'm sorry to say, neither should even engage business visa in training the participants to see how they can go into their production successfully, add value to their products, including fish. I saw all of them. And I will invite NTA. I think they partner with NTA at a point, but let them put them at the front burner for Nigeria as a case study. So that we don't repeat the mistake of Malaysia. Because if those countries inviting him, he will go and teach them how to do what he has taught them to do in Nigeria, they didn't take serious, then those countries would overtake Nigeria. And I'm sure you're aware now, China is already exporting.
We will start importing from them.
From them. China is already exporting. I think
yam is also on the cards for China.
And then we have all the research results. IITA in Ibadan is having the mandate of research into all tropical agricultural issues. The International Institute of Agricultural Research in more plantation in Ibadan, and their counterpart in Abuja area, Shika, has produced Shika Brown, that is producing the best egg quality chicken in Nigeria. But what is the promotion? They have the mandate to produce, address some of our conflict issues that we're having in terms of herdsmen farmers conflict. We don't need to have it if Shika has been developed properly. But they have a massive land in Samaru that is almost 10 kilometers. But has been translated into research and connecting with the public. This herdsmen conflict is unnecessary if the Shika mandate to produce grass that can grow fast and farmers can plant and livestock can consume. We're not talking about the kind of livestock center, Niger State government has established a grazing reserve in Bobi with partnership with Netherlands and the largest producer of milk in the world. They have gone to that site. They are already developing the model that would have been a case study for Nigeria. But for these insecurity issues, that place would have been the newest model that farmers, livestock rearers and producers, milk processors will now change the fortune of agro-allied industry and intervention. So I would suggest strongly to Mr. Ikone, Prince Ikone, that this is a chance for him to help Nigeria, help Mr. President, implement this policy without fear or favor or contradiction. Because as you said, we develop beautiful blueprints, we develop beautiful policies, but when it comes to implementation, either politicization takes place or wrong people are employed to drive those processes and they don't know what to do. And I can tell you confidently, it's not all about money. Knowledge is what drives the economy of many countries now. Ideas is what drive the processes in many places. So we must of necessity get the right people to drive some of these processes at the entire space of Nigeria. There are eminently qualified people that can drive these processes. And I believe if what I've seen in business visa is anything to go by, Nigeria can make it. Yes. Nigeria can achieve the total transformation in terms of diversification, in terms of value addition, and in terms of policies that will be practical and impactful in Nigeria.
Right. In fact, I was so touched when you mentioned the issue of Malaysia, because in Indonesia, I personally saw the conversion of red oil into
industrial byproducts.
Not just the products, for automobile automobile use. Exactly. And they invited Toyota to come and look at it, what I've done, from red oil. And it's a simple process, as the way they explain that. But that tells you the level they have gone to with red oil, showing full well that, of course, they have overtaken Malaysia in that respect.
But, let me give you an example. NIFO in Benin and their counterpart in Malaysia, in 1956, they started having conferences and exchange of ideas. So I met some of them, the Malaysians, in an international conference. And I challenged and said, you stole an idea from Nigeria. They said, no, Professor, what happens is that in Malaysia, if the government budget 10,000 hectares of expansion annually, they will end up, their institution that is responsible will end up with 100,000 hectares. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, the entire land space go to all the oil palm producing belt. We have not achieved 10,000 hectares. Yeah. So therefore, the entire land mass of Malaysia was taken over by oil palm.
In fact, if you are driving from the airport, Kuala Lumpur, to the city, it's palm plantation.
Several kilometers.
And the Malaysians actually now relate palm oil production to crude oil. Mm. They have upstream and downstream.
All right, Prince. I mean,
sorry.
From Professor Yahya Kota's explanations here. Of course, I'm sure you have learned one or two things from what he has said with respect to these integrated farm estates that we are all building. I know it's also new to you, in as much as you are those that are steering, the project. Now, does NADA really have the manpower to provide the kind of administration required to ensure that these estates will not just come and go like other blueprints that we've had in the country that were halfway implemented? Some of them went to comatose and what have you.
Okay, before I get into your question, let me quickly address what Professor Yaya said about timing and starting all of them at the same time. Before now, nobody knew that this integrated farm estate was going on until Mr. President commissioned it. It was not on the news at all. What brought it to the limelight was the commissioning, meaning it was not meant for political achievement. President is not going for second term, meaning we have taken our time to look into what needs to be done, how it should be done, and what it will achieve, giving room for more ideas and more support. going forward. That became a prototype, and we are doing it in phases. There's no way we are going to jump into 109 senatorial zones. In business, you can't even do that, because every businessman will want to start small and grow big. So that is why we started with Daura, and it's obvious that it's achievable. We can do it, and we will do it. So starting with Daura, we have gotten lands in other states, and we didn't start building the integrated farm estate immediately. We waited for Daura to be completed. While Borno State own was going on, Ekiti State was completely cleared. So instead of allowing the land to be lying fallow, we went into crop production. So there we planted maize. So by the time we would have finished Medugri, the one in Borno State, that of Ekiti will come on board. We have done 100 hectares cleared in Ogun State, also waiting for the Imo own to be completed. So it's processes, so that the lessons you learn from here, you use it to adjust in the other one. So in terms of implementation, all of them will not be implemented at the same time, but land clearing will keep going on, and then farmers will be deployed so that they will go into crop farming.
Okay, Prince Ikone, we are pressed for time now, but how does the idea of the integrated farm estates mesh with pre-existing programs? Because some state governments are also implementing their agricultural policies. And experts argue that the real way to ensure our food security is to drive up production, reproduction, and of course that will require tractorization and so on and so forth. How does the farm estate idea fit into these pre-existing? There are some state governments that are having their own agricultural programs. Are they part of this, or are they just watching you? You do your own, we do our own.
Okay, excellent. You can't enter into any state to start doing anything without the knowledge of the state government. In the first place, the land is donated through the state government. So the communities, they don't donate to us and we go in. The lands are donated through the state government, and the state government are in the picture of the land and of the program. Now, the integrated farm estate is not the only activities that NADA is doing to support farmers in every state. But we are looking at something that will take in new farmers, encourage young ones to go into farming. Yes. That is where the integrated farm estate became much important, and something that must be embarked on. Don't forget that agriculture wasn't on the front burner in this country because the president came on board, and now everybody's talking agriculture, and the private farmer that you talked about is a Nigerian, and is as a result of the encouragement of Mr. President. So,
Prince, we're running out of time, really. You know, in terms of agriculture being on the front burner, you recall that even in our school days we had the Operation Feed the Nation, you know, and all of that. You know, in the early 80s, mid 80s, early 90s, we had all manner of agricultural programs, but they were never properly implemented. That is why we are concerned about how this integrated farm estates can be sustained. We wish it to be sustained because we're all Nigerians. If that happens, of course, we'll have the kind of food production we're talking about. That's just the issue. Well, running out of time, Dr. Kabir Abiso, your final thoughts on this matter.
Okay. Thank you. I think I have had really wonderful discussions we have seen. What I would suggest to the government and then the farmers is not an easy, this one is not an easy task, because one, I has identified how far about the risk factors. How can we cope about the risk factor? That is one. Two, in terms of implementation, we need to see the sustainability, as you rightly say, is the adaptation. How is farmer willing to adopt to make sure that this program is useful for him? Because one, educating a farmer is very important, and the community. Because involving the community, and also the third issue is private participation. I will urge the NALDA to to partner with some private, especially the research institutes, as Professor was saying about the IITA. These are well-organized research institutes, which if the NALDA and then the government can be able to, although they are collaborating up to now, they have their own research centers in every, some of the regions, but this kind of effort has to be achieved through PPP, private partner participation, which is very important.
Dr. Kabir Abiso, an agronomist, we appreciate your being part of our conversation this morning. Our deep thanks also to Professor Mohammed Kuta Yahaya, a professor of agriculture at the University of Ibadan and former secretary to the government of Niger State. Prof, thanks a lot for your insights. And of course, we would also like to thank very much Prince Paul Ikone, Executive Secretary of the National Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA. All right, so that's it for our conversation segment. Let's go over now to our sports desk.
8-time Olympic champion Usain Bolt says it is too late for a comeback, but admits he has got that itch for a dramatic return to the sport. The Jamaican ended his glittering track and field career in 2017. He says he was tempted by a possible return for the Tokyo Games, but his coach persuaded him otherwise. Bolt also believes that the rivalry between female Jamaican sprinters Shirley-Ann Fraser-Price and Elaine Thompson-Herah could lead to one of them breaking the 100 meters and 200 meters world records set by American Florence Griffith Joyner in 1988. Meanwhile, Japan has pulled out of hosting the Club World Cup in December because of COVID-19 restrictions in the country. FIFA said the Japanese Football Association JFA told them on Thursday that it is no longer in a position to host the competition. The annual tournament features the champions of the different continents, with Chelsea qualifying this year as Champions League winners. FIFA said details about an alternative host will be announced in due course. While Japan hosted both the Olympic and Paralympic Games this summer, the country is under a state of emergency and currently grappling with its worst ever COVID wave. The 2021 event was set to be the 9th time the tournament had been hosted in Japan and would have coincided with the JFA's 100th anniversary celebrations.
Now, let's take some entertainment news.
I love you, baby. Let's go. That's side.
If you didn't know better, you will probably assume that Nigerian superstar Wizkid was the headlining artist of Made in America Festival. But not at all. He was only invited on stage by Canadian music superstar Justin Bieber to perform the song Essence of his latest album, Made in Lagos.
Now my love you didn't need for your life. Yeah, our love not be lie. Say yeah, we did together, yeah, day and night. Yeah, if I leave you go by. Say I'm stroking your body.
The massive crowd at the concert hit the roof as Wizkid exuded confidence, panache, and dignified energy. On the other hand, watching an international music star such as Bieber, with a fan base of about 200 million making frantic effort to get a grasp of their Afrobeat dance moves while performing next to Wizkid, was a sight to behold.
I will be by your side. I don't want to forget those lonely nights.
There is no doubt Nigeria's music industry is shooting for the stars. Essence has been having an amazing run on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It's currently on number 19 on Billboard 100 and also number 1 on the Billboard R&B chart, which means Wizkid has a number 1 record in the United States of America. For E-News, Buto Miller.
Okay, so that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. Deep thanks to our viewers for tuning in. We are back on Monday, same time, 7 in the morning. As always, we urge you to take care of yourself. Have a lovely weekend. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian Umayo. Have a wonderful weekend.
want to talk about rights, there are obligations. I'm not saying that this government is a saint, it's very far from it. But there are things that we can do to make it better, and that's the challenge I'm throwing to you. You don't want to build this nation? I don't know where else you want to go. If I had a choice, I'll come back. When I stand outside and I hear what you have to say about this country that I know that I can die for as one, then I'm really sad because you're young. You have education, you have tools, you have a huge future ahead of you, and you're condemning yourself before you started on that journey. So please don't do that, please don't.
Stop this senseless killing. All we need is one Nigeria.
I think we have come to the threshold of time when we need to seek for peace.
We need
peace in this country. We need peace in Nigeria.
And together, we can pull through.
No matter where you come from.
Hausa, Igbo, or Yoruba.
We cannot achieve a better Nigeria by fighting.
Let us stand together in brotherhood and solidarity and strive for peace.
And not because of their tribal or their religion or whatsoever background.
Da zaman lafiya da kwanciyar hankali a cikin ƙasar Najeriya.
Let us support the government of the day to embrace peace in our nation.
Your Nigeria, our Nigeria, my Nigeria.
This message is brought to you by the Ambassador of Voice for Change Initiative, supported by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and the Federal Capital Territory.
This is the network service of the NTA.